Welcome to TwoQuestions.tv. With me today is our friend and series regular, Bob Bethel. We're talking about managing the finances of your business. Welcome to TwoQuestions.tv. I'm Susan Baroncini-Moe. Joining me today is one of my favorite guests, Bob Bethel. He's the orchestrator of 77 business turnarounds over the past 50 years. He's turned around companies in lots of different industries and helped save over 10,000 jobs as a result of his strategic business counsel. And he's the author of this book, Strengthen Your Business, Failproof Strategies for the Man Who Rescued 77 Businesses. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it. What a wonderful mug you have.
Why, thank you. Thank you. Someone very kind sent it to me.
I have one with something different.
Oh, do you? I'm not sure you do.
Yeah, mine's different.
Oh my goodness. You're an official regular and you're my favorite guest because you sent me a mug and there's only two in the entire universe.
That's it.
Well,
However, for a price, there can be more.
All right, you heard it, audience. Let us know if you'd like your mugs. Bob will secure them for us. All right, Bob, let's talk business.
Good.
While we drink from our fabulous mugs that you procured. I was reading a little bit in your book last night, and it came across a section where you said that there's a big advantage to working with big accounting and legal firms. And only recently have I started to come around to this way of thinking. I spent a lot of years thinking that I didn't want to pay for their overhead. And I liked the idea of giving small businesses a shot. And, you know, I kind of like that feel. But there really are some benefits. So how'd you come around to thinking about it this way?
Well, same way you did, because I, like most small business people, started with local small firms, both in accounting and legal. And that served me well enough until I started getting to the point that I was dealing with larger firms as it pertains to vendors and lenders, particularly, and then customers. Because as I started buying engineering firms, I found that a lot of Fortune 500 companies dealing with us wanted to do cost plus work, for example. And that was my first time that I really ran across it, because they said, as part of the process on a quarterly basis, we need to audit your work. And I said, great, no problem. We use Susan down the road. And they said, no. We have to have a national firm.
They're wise. I don't know anything about accounting anyway.
So that was the beginning of it. And as time passed, I found that having a national law firm held me in very good stead, from a standpoint that firm had attorneys in it representing all facets of the law, be that labor or tax or whatever, the patent law. So just over time, and thank goodness very early on, because of national companies I was dealing with as either lenders or customers, I found that by doing that, it put me in very good stead with those people. And even though on the front end it cost you a little bit more, over a relatively short period of time, you will quickly come to realize it will save you money. And just as an example, Uh, our current national law firm we've worked with for the last 10 years, and I have changed international law firms based on various industries. There was a time that I was working with engineering companies that worked in the oil field, the oil industry, and we were international. And I found that using, for instance, Baker and Botts out of Houston, one of the best known oil and gas law firms in the world, that was a real benefit to have them. But we're working on a deal right now. And had I not been using a national firm, I would have had a real hiccup with this deal, with a local firm, pure and simply because of their familiarity with the industry and the volume of work they do in that industry. So I found it very much worth the money, and in time it'll save you money.
Well, and you and I have talked, I don't think necessarily on this show, but in our chats on the phone, you and I have talked about how there's a great benefit when you have someone who is a very clear specialist in a particular industry or in a particular thing they do. So yes, they do that thing all the time. And yes, so there's no learning curve there. And in fact, yes, you can learn a lot from that. So yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. So. Now,
matter of fact, on a very regular basis to your statement, our current attorney reminds me pretty well on a weekly basis that I do not have a license to practice law. So listen and don't try and teach him law.
Oh, heck, I bet you know more about law than...
Well, no, he's very correct, and it's a good point. Matter of fact, during one of our big acquisitions many years ago, I was walking around his office, in fact, practicing law, and he said, come with me. And we walked down the hall, and I said, where are we going? He said, just come with me. And he opened this door, and he said, Lawyer Bethel, this is your new office, and walked me into a vacant office. He said, if you're going to practice, you don't need to practice in my office, you need your own office. So it was a good point. You need to, if you're going to have counsel, be it accounting counsel or legal counsel, you need to listen to them, you need to pay attention, because they have your best interest at heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do when we know everything, but you know. Well, okay. You also said that it's important to reduce expenses in the business in order for the business to prosper. And you talk a little bit about salaries of owners. And when I read that section the first time months ago, I remember thinking, some of my entrepreneur friends probably wouldn't like that very much. But you have some really good reasons for it. So why does it make sense for the business owner to stop taking so much money out of the business for his or her salary, among other things?
Well, having now taken over 79 businesses, I've heard this every single time. For 52 years, I've heard this. And during my initial conversations with each and every owner whose business had gotten in trouble, as I looked and asked the question of, why are you pulling so much money out of the company? And the same answer each and every time, and that is, well, the company owes me. I've put my blood, sweat, and tears. And you know, I started making really good decisions because I went in business very young. And I was timid as to saying no as to expenses. Someone, department head would come to me and say, I need so-and-so, and I would hem and haw and, well, okay. I found a comfort point when I started looking at my business as a baby.
Yes.
And I'm dead serious about it. Mentally, I started looking at my company as a baby lying in a crib. And would I let anyone hurt or negatively affect that baby? And the answer was, of course not.
Right.
And when I started looking at cost in that fashion, my decisions were easy. And and what happens, certainly in all of the businesses I've been involved in, is the owner very quickly comes to believe in their heart of hearts that business does owe them. Heck, I stay late, I get up, I take care of all of these various things. I deserve it. Well, first of all, is the company profiting to a level that you do in fact deserve it? And I don't question the fact of deserving it, but can you afford to pay it? And what I mean by that is it goes back to my core belief, and that is you must set the company up to profit. And in order to do that, at the end of each month, you look at the end of the month and you go, wow, we had net profit of $100,000. I'm going to reward myself by taking $80,000 this month. Instead of saying, hey, this is great. We need to set aside a cash reserve for the hard times. We need to take part of that money and reduce our debt. So it's a discipline.
Yeah.
And it's got to go through the entire organization. And you know, I've never been in an organization, and I've always been extremely careful about payroll. And whether you believe it or not, very quickly, payroll information gets out. And I'll give you a great example. I sold a very large engineering company to a public company in Houston that was acquiring engineering divisions. And it was headed up by the ex-chairman of the board of Exxon. So they had tons of money behind them. They acquired my company, and as part of that, I was put under contract to remain an employee of that company for a given period of time. At the time my company was acquired, there were a total of 21 companies in that holding company. And they took the executives of each of those 21 companies. They took the controller, the president, the vice presidents, and those people were not paid at the individual company level. They were paid at the corporate level in Houston, okay, by the Houston Treasury. And that was to maintain the privacy of the officers of all of the companies. I had been with that company after the acquisition for about 90 days when they had a controllers meeting in Houston of all 20-something controllers from all of the individual companies around the country to go over policy. My controller had worked for me for 7 years. She was a very intelligent lady. She came back and told me the salary of every single president. Okay? See what I mean? So So the point in that is employees are going to get a real good idea of what you as the owner make.
Yeah.
They can sharpen that from where you live. You're not going to pull in with a 560 SL Mercedes convertible and act like you're driving a Volkswagen. Okay?
Right.
So it's, as a matter of fact, for years and years, this is horrible, but this is the way people think. There was a brilliant woman banker in Nashville. I was doing deals, and because I lived on a farm, I drove a pickup truck. Now, that pickup truck had all of the bells and whistles that you could possibly think of. I had a friend, this is an honest to goodness fact. I had a friend who was also in the development business and the deal business, and he went to an auction and bought an old Rolls Royce convertible. It's classic. And I think at the time he paid like $20,000 for it. Well, he and I both had this lady banker. And my pickup truck, the list price on it was $55,000, okay? She called me and she said, because unwittingly on his part, this other guy did some TV commercials and it showed him driving down the interstate with being filmed in his Rolls convertible, okay?
Oh, no.
She called me the day those commercials aired and said, have you seen that idiot? The arrogance of driving a Rolls Royce. Well, the day he bought it, he came by my office. He was like a little kid. He had him an antique Rolls. It didn't cost very much money, but he was stupid enough to go on television with it, okay? And she just literally quit doing business with him. It just angered her so bad. So you as a business owner, if you think it's okay to drive a brand, if you've got a bunch of debt in your company, and you and your wife go out to the country club and act like billionaires, guess what? Your banker's wife's sister may be sitting there watching it, and I don't care if you live in the middle of London, Paris, New York City. Every town ends up being a small town. And the minute people start saying, well, have you seen Bob Bethel and have you seen what he's driving? And do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and that's true if you don't pay your people well.
Exactly.
If you're really underpaying, and that happened to me. That happened to me. I worked for a private company and I didn't make that much. And every month the owner would come in to our company meeting and talk about his boat, and he'd talk about his place on St. Bart's, and he'd tell us all the luxury things he was doing. And I remember thinking, why am I making you wealthy?
Yeah.
I could be making myself wealthy.
Yes.
I hate this.
Yes, exactly. So it affects your team.
Yeah.
It affects your customers. It affects your lenders. It affects your vendors. Well, she's making so much money, I'm going to raise the price.
Yeah.
It's just pure old common sense.
Now, that doesn't mean you can't live well. You can if your business is profitable, you're not in debt, you're paying your people well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is common sense. it's something that I have to wonder. You know, if your company's making a super amount of money right now, you don't know what it's going to look like a year from now. Why alienate all of these people? You know, wait until do what my parents did. My parents made extremely good money. We lived in a modest neighborhood. I didn't even know they had any money until I was in college. I honestly didn't. But we would go on vacations, and once we were 1,000 miles away from home, our vacations were lavish. But guess what? Dad's customers, vendors, lenders, no one saw that.
That is so nice.
No one judged him about that.
Yeah.
And you just have to think that way.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's good comments. I like that. I like that. Bob, where can people find you?
RobertThomasBethel.com.
Perfect.
Or they can get on Amazon and buy the book.
The book? Do you mean this book?
That book, yes.
All right. Do you want to join me for the after show?
I do.
Awesome. All right. We'll sit and chat and drink some tea.
Wonderful.
Or whatever's in your mug. What's in your mug?
Jack Daniels.
No, it's not.
Tennessee sipping whiskey.
No, it's not. What's really in it?
Water.
Okay. I'm even drinking hot tea today, so I could have this mug. And yes.
There you are.
Bob, thank you for joining me today for this show. We're going to go into the after show. Now, viewers, if you'd like to join Bob and me for the after show, come with us. We're going over to twoquestions.tv. It's the only place you can see the after show, so if you want to see it, come over there. We'll see you there. In the meantime, here's the book. We're going to have links down below in the show notes for today so you can get your copy, and you can also find Bob there too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.